Today we're going to take a look at the Philippa fighter from the Unmatched games. Now Philippa is one of the fighters from the Witcher Realms Fall set, along with Yennefer and Triss and Eredin. Philippa is a sorceress. She had most of the time aligned herself with some of the more problematic kingdoms there in the Witcher universe. So she was definitely more of like a scheming, problematic sorcerer. I really know the Witcher series more than the video games. And as we can tell on this, she is blind and has been blinded. That happened in the games and has not happened at this point in the series. We have her sidekick Dijkstra, who is a spy master. Philippa is a ranged hero with a health of 12 and a move of 2. Her sidekick is Dijkstra, who is melee with a health of 6. Her ability is 2 steps ahead. At the end of your turn, you may draw until you have a hand of 4 cards. So the important things on this ability, first of all, you may draw until you have a hand of 4 cards. That may means it is optional. You can do it, or you can decide not to do it. Additionally, you draw up until you have 4 cards in your hand. If you don't have any cards, you draw 4. You have 1, you draw 3. You have 2, you draw 2. You have 3, you draw 1. And if you have 4 or more, you're already at 4, so you're not going to be able to draw up anymore. So this will give you an interesting way to be able to keep a hand up there to where you don't ever completely run out of cards. And it's an interesting way to do it there. We have some like, Bigfoot who can draw at the end of their turn. But this can let you draw multiple if you need it. It's not going to let you ever draw up a big hand because you can't go more than 4. But it definitely stops you from ever having nothing in your hand. And also remember, if you are going into exhaustion and don't have anything in your deck, you would take damage by drawing cards. You can't choose to draw less than what would be required to make that up. You either draw no cards or you draw completely up to 4. Okay, taking a look at her deck, we'll start off with Owl Form. Owl Form, yes, because she can turn herself into an owl and fly around and stuff. That kind of works as part of her, kind of spying and sneaky bits. Owl Form, an attack of 3. During combat, discard any number of cards from your hand. Add +1 to this card's value for each card discarded. Well, this is just like a little baby beast form. Baby beast form. That's pretty much what it is. So it takes a lot more cards to pull that up there, because you got to get 3 cards to even get this to the point of being like a beast form. Now remember, she is ranged, so smaller numbers on a ranged fighter can be good, because you don't have to have as big a numbers when you can hit more easily and not expose yourself. And also because of this ability here, I think one of the ideas is that you could dump your entire hand into an owl form and then use 2 steps ahead to draw up the 4 cards at the end of your turn. So you can dump your hand, get 4 cards. Chances are you probably got a defense out of that. So dumping your hand into an owl form is not quite as dangerous to you as it is a beast form. Beast form is really more of a finishing move. This one could happen at any time if you're willing to throw the cards away with that ability. You've also got 3 of these in your deck instead of just the 2 that Dracula has. Lightning Bolt. Attack of 3. If you haven't taken the maneuver action this turn, deal 1 damage to each opposing fighter in Philippa's zone. Well, you're ranged, so there's a good chance of you not having maneuvered. Chain Lightning, an attack of 2. Choose a zone Philippa is in. Deal 1 damage to each opposing fighter in that zone. Now, this is choose a zone that Philippa is in. This is not deal a damage to each opposing fighter in Philippa's zone. That would be if she were in a multi-colored spot like that tricolor right there. This does not let you deal damage to all 3 zones. This says you got to pick between the light purple, green, and brown. And you pick one of those zones, not all of them. Spellbreaker, a versatile of 2. Immediately cancel all effects on your opponent's card after combat end of turn. So this is a stronger feint. While it is still the same value, it does end the turn afterwards. One thing to remember here is that this is a Philippa card, which means that Dijkstra does not have access to that card, and so does not have the cancel. Blinding Dust, defensive 2. After combat, you may discard 1 card. If you do, deal damage to the opposing fighter equal to its boost value. You're going to take some damage on this one with it being a 2, and you're already a pretty low health fighter at 2, but you get to just drop a card out there and deal damage to them when it's their turn, which is always great. Paralyzing Fetters, defensive 2. Immediately, the value of your opponent's card is equal to its printed value and cannot be changed. So this will affect anything that could bring a card up, whether that be card effects like a momentous shift or boosting. It also would apply to things like the character abilities, whether it be something like the Leshen or Alice or Achilles. Also, it applies to map mechanics like High Ground and the Marvel tokens. And since this is a defensive card, it goes off first, and there isn't anything that's going to be able to stop that. So you're basically stopping their cards from being able to be changed in value, which is really awesome. Polymorphy. Now this is Philippa's ongoing effect card. You will place this card down in front of you. That effect will happen first, and the ongoing effect will stay in effect until the criteria on this bottom line is met. The effect that's resolved right away is place Philippa in any space. The ongoing effect, Philippa's move value is 5. Discard this card at the end of your turn if Philippa is not in a zone with an opposing fighter. Well, the movement of 5 is crazy because she normally has 2. Also note that this says Philippa's move value is 5, which means it is only Philippa. Dijkstra does not get the benefit from polymorphy. Backup plan. Choose 1. Set Philippa's health to 5 or draw 3 cards. Well, this could be a very late game way to get some health in there. You've got to drop down below 5 to make that good there. You've also got to do this on your turn. This isn't something that will do it defensively like Holy Grail. So you've got to make sure you play it at the right time and don't get too low and die. You could draw 3 cards if you just really need the cards. I think about the only reason I would see that happening would be if you're trying to like really ramp up an owl form. That would be a way to do it. We're getting into Dijkstra now. Spy Master's Ruse. Choose an opponent. They reveal 4 cards from their hand. Choose 2 of those cards for them to discard. Then they draw 2 cards. So they show you 4 cards out of their hand, and you get to pick 2 of them to discard. This is not as amazing as like looking in their hand and picking out a card, but you are getting to choose 2 cards for them to discard. And any 2 that they discard is going to be pretty crazy. They do draw the 2 cards afterwards, so they do get a few cards back up there, but gives you a chance to do some really awesome stuff. Do My Bidding. This is defensive 3, and yes, this is the card right out of Dracula's deck. You can look that they're even mimicking the artwork from Dracula's Do My Bidding. Immediately return your opponent's card to their hand, look at their hand, and choose a card for them to play. It may be the same card. So it just has to be any card that is valid for them to play. This lets you look at their hand, gives you hand knowledge, lets you pull out something. A lot of times you would drop this right before I'm potentially using an owl form to make sure that they don't have something in there that can really stop that. Interestingly, that this is also an any in this case, which means that Dijkstra can play Do My Bidding. Most of the time you're playing this to get the hand knowledge and to know what's going on there. Being able to like stop an attack from really hurting you bad there would be a good reason to play it. But a lot of times you want to grab some card that they would use, a versatile card that they would use as a defense, and get that out of the way. Regicide, an attack of 4 during combat. If the opposing fighter is a hero, this card's value is 6 instead. This is just a solid card. Because most of the time, even if this is canceled, it's a high enough number that it's still going to do some damage. Redanian Plot, even though this features Dijkstra on it, it is still an any card, so Philippa can play this as well. Immediately, your opponent may discard 1 card. If they don't, ignore their card's value. So you're dropping this in there to either get them into a spot where if this is an attack, they have to take 2 damage or discard a card, or it forces them to have to discard a card to get whatever damage was going to go over this 2 into you. I really like these cards that make the opponent have to make choices there between 2 really bad things. And lastly, Cunning, versatile of 4. After combat, your opponent may discard 1 card. If they don't, deal 2 damage to the opposing fighter. Once again, another choice point for them. Either discard a card or take 2 damage to whoever is attacking there. And that's, 2 damage is 2 damage. I mean, I know there's a lot of guys that can take that, but every little bit of 2 damage adds up, and there's a lot of little hidden damage in here. A lot of points in there where they have to choose which of the bad things they want to do, which I like being a nice little theme in here. The question on this is going to be, does Philippa have enough firepower in there to be able to stay aggressive and keep attacking? Because if she's able to do that with 2 steps ahead, she could be pretty aggro and go through it pretty well. Additionally, little baby beast form, if you can ramp that up, it's going to take a lot more cards. That's going to be the rough part on it there. You really need to catch that when they're not throwing a big number into it. If they're throwing like a 5 into this, it's going to be hard to do anything with that. But think that it is an interesting deck. It's an interesting ability and some new stuff that we haven't seen before. I think that she'll be a play style that'll be pretty fun and entertaining, and looking forward to see where she ends up going. So if you found this video interesting, you can give it a thumbs up and a like. You can also go down into the comments and let me know what you think down there. And you can also subscribe to my channel to make sure that you catch everything that I post so you don't miss anything. This is Jeremy with Dijkstra, and we'll see you around next time.